So from the very beginning, my life was sort of a bunch of questions about science and what the natural world was trying to say to us and what did that mean, etc. But at a very early age, I was also able to go for free for children's art lessons at the Art Institute of Chicago. It was totally fabulous. Not only were the lessons rewarding, but I could then spend several hours before the next bus went home to just walk through all of those galleries and all of that art, and it called to me. So there were, as I went through life, there were two things pulling at me. One was research and the joy of finding out about things in terms of the sciences. And then because I had, pretty much formal training and viewing with art, most of my work is very much, of course, part of all those formal qualities that I learned about. Line, space, form, decoration, design, the whole thing. So I'm going to start with some of these, with a couple early things. This is a large painting, not as large as my other paintings, but called Penguin Nostalgia Painting. And what I was trying, even that early, was to compare animals and humans. Here, the physicality of us. And why do we like penguins? Well, they stand up. Great. And they walk on two legs. Great, because that's what we do. So of course we liked them. Next one, Laura. And this is a performance I put together at UC Davis, which was part of a huge performance. And to this day, I can't imagine how I got so many people to put on those silly things and walk around like penguins, but that's what I did. So let's see, some of the first questions I had about this comparison between humans and animals was to look at what is underneath the skin, the fur, the feathers, and spend some time at zoos and with veterinarians getting a bunch of x-rays. So hit one, Laura. So this is called Mandarin crane, because it was a Mandarin crane I was thinking about and watching on this in this x-ray. And it's a quite large painting. I think it's about 7 or 8 feet tall. And I somehow got really engrossed by this idea of helping people view these x-rays as human. And then only secondarily realizing that they were animals. And I think in some of them I was successful in that. Laura? Here's one that is based on a dog's x-ray. It's called Spacelander, because if you get back far enough from it, that's what it sort of looks like. And these are mostly airbrush done with acrylic paint, but they're, as you can see, quite large. After working this way for quite a while, yeah, you can go ahead, Laura. Another idea kind of got into my head, which was, okay, if I can compare their morphology, can I also compare the social aspects of animals and humans? And of course, I was in college taking psychology classes and then teaching at a large university that had an enormous and well-known psychology department. So I would spend a lot of time down in the labs drawing these rats and mice. And it was interesting, mostly because everyone would stop me and say, why are you doing this? But the societies I was thinking about in terms of the problem of too many rats or too many human beings being in the same place at once is that, yeah, that's why we have, wars. We fight for resources, we fight for air, we fight for space. And using the center image, which is a silkscreen image, to show that, yeah, they're here, but we don't seem to care too much. This is a lesson that maybe we have not learned. Laura? Another lesson we probably have not learned. This painting is called The Last Dance. Okay, so who gets the last dance? Will it be Barbie doll, who is in the center, and whom we sort of worship, I guess, or did at a certain time in our lives? Or these lovely rats who seem to be having a great time. That, again, was in my head. The next one, Laura, is a very large painting called The Inheritors. And here, all of a sudden, the ants reappeared. And started me thinking, again, a little bit about overpopulation, a little bit about, well, what's going to happen? Who will take over? A lot of people say to me, well, these are kind of dead end and kind of hopeless, morose paintings. And my answer is, for me, holding these ideas in my body and in my head was so anxiety creating that I found out once I got them down on canvas, they didn't bother me so much because I could see them. I could say, okay, that's one of the problems we have today, and maybe I can do something else about it, and which I tried to do. Next one, Laura. So this is I call it a mural, but it's really 6 canvas paintings. And this is at the auditorium in Washington State University. I had been to China and I love their red walls. So that's what I'm emulating here. But I think go to the next slide and we can see what was important to me here. The top layer, all the vignettes have some kind of human animal connection. And the bottom ones, the animals are sort of on their own. So go to the detail, please. So it's one of the details. So I was thinking about how we humans used animals, and we certainly do. Yep, there it is. The next one, actually, let's go back to that other one because I call this, thank you, I call this Field Report Faux Phoenix Sightings. And there you go, here I go, putting the idea of science research and this being a field report rather than just a painting. Okay, we can go on now. This is from several years ago. I started using birds as a metaphor for nature, for what was out there. And in this case, they took the form of, I call them monuments. I had been to Washington, D.C. Everywhere I looked, there was a bronze statue, usually on horseback, holding a gun. And I thought, geez, we really should think about how we look at these kind of monuments. Maybe nature should be part of the monument. And that's what I did here. I think there's a close-up of 2 of these. Yeah, there's a close-up. So these are painted sort of to look like they were bronze reliefs. And as I have done many times, I did include some text with them. And these are my monuments that should be in Washington, D.C. or someplace. Let's see, the next thing. Oh, yeah, there it is. It's called In Anno Anthropocene, which is, I guess, this state that we are in right now, in the way that scientists have decided to name all of all of our lives from way, way back and the life of the planet. Here again, I took the bird and again kind of showed what we have learned maybe from birds or what birds have tried to teach us. I think I've got a couple of details of this. Yeah, there's one. I mean, which came first, you know, the song of the bird or the human trying to just do the same thing? And here again, I mean, birds, you know, can do amazing, amazing things. Every once in a while, we go to Siri and have her read off all the things birds can do. And just their eyes alone, my goodness, it makes me feel like I'm almost blind. What's next? Oh, there's the size of that piece. And that is a relatively medium-sized piece for me. That resides up in Ketchikan somewhere. Let's see, what's coming next? I don't want to go too much over here. These are, I think, are these the last two? I don't know. There was at this time a realization that we are putting these monuments out there. You know, we've got the pyramids, we've got, well, some things that didn't last in this country, in New York City, but we've been building these things for centuries. And when I was in Greece, I could see that, here are my ants again, over on the left, that the ants would go up into these, you know, buildings or columns or whatever, and they would come down with a piece of it. And so I thought, well, I guess we don't have anything to worry about. I mean, the ants are going to kind of get rid of all that stuff, and so we won't have to worry about it. But at the same time, I was thinking about my garden and how important that was. And so these steps, the steps on the painting, are about a personal garden that I had made that year. And pulling those two ideas together was part of this painting. I think I've got another one. Yes, I think this is my last one. This is, isn't it?
Yeah.
No? Yes.
Yeah.
This is called Guardian of Water. And if you get very close to it, you can see that the guardian is encompassing many of the sea and water creatures that we hold very dear. But hopefully we will also hold the water dear so that they can survive. And that's where I am. Okay. When I was a kid at the Art Institute, every single painting was just fabulous for me. As I grew older, I also realized that there was a difference between the East Coast and the West Coast, and I actually felt more affinity with a lot of West Coast artists, the ones I met, and well, there were some Chicago artists too. I really thought were fabulous. So it wasn't that I was seeking a career in art, but, you know, go to New York and have a career. It was just that I wanted to teach. My whole family, they're all teachers. And it just seemed like it's something that I was made for. The artists, let's see, well, Bill Wiley was a good friend, and I've always enjoyed his work and talking to him. And the Harry Who were just fabulous, I thought, wonderful. So and even in today, I mean, I still look at a lot of, I'll call them the older artists, usually not the Renaissance as much as earlier than that, if you're looking at Europe, much earlier. And then, of course, African art was really beautiful for me. I love that stuff. It's just that, having had all of this training with line, color, et cetera, it still fascinates me. And I'm still obviously working with that. Well, I always like to try different things out, first of all. And secondly, I like this idea of relief. So, and many people will say, I thought that was a carving, or that was a bronze casting, and there's something about that elevates how you look at it. It's not just a painting, So yeah, I like it, and it's really fun to try to do that. And I'm always, in every piece, I kind of try to think of new things to do. It's all experiments to me. I don't like to really repeat. I guess looking at these, it looks like I repeat a lot, but I really don't. I really don't. I have to have a ladder, and then you have to go up the ladder and do something, and then come down the ladder and go, 10 feet back and look at it. And then you have to go up the ladder again and do something. And then, so it's good physical exercise, but that's how you work. That's how I worked on the big ones. There were some that were so big, I had to work sideways on them, but that was fine. That was easy. The big ones. I have loads of, well, you can't see the mess in here, loads of sketchbooks. So I'm always trying to put together different images that either make some sense to me or don't make sense to me. That's just as good. So putting the ideas together is the fun part, really. And then another one of the experimenting parts is actually painting it, because you never know how it's going to turn out, and then things do change as I go along. A friend wrote to me after seeing my show how he looks at art, and it was fascinating to me. He first kind of looks at it with his glasses on. Then he goes really close and takes his glasses off and really looks at it close. And then he goes back and has his glasses off and looks at it big again. It was just fascinating to hear this. So, everyone has their own way of interpreting and engaging with art, which is what I love. I think that's fabulous. We should really encourage that. Well, that's a good question too. I at the same time that we had the pieces that are in the show delivered, and frankly, your crew, all the people who worked at SAI were fabulous, and so understanding and all that. But I had the last painting I had worked on was due at the gallery I show at in Independence, the River Gallery. And so here I was kind of juggling these tubes of paintings that are now up in the Ann Bush Gallery, and trying to figure out how to get this painting, which was on stretchers for the first time. I don't know why it was on stretchers. And trying to get it to Independence when it was too big for any car or truck or anything that of someone I knew. And Jim had called U-Haul, and it was so expensive to take it there, and then of course have to return it. So that same morning when I was doing all this stuff for the Salem Art Association, I took a knife, turned that canvas over, and cut it off of the stretcher. And then Jim helped me put eyelets at the top and at the bottom, and we rolled it up and took it there in our Prius. So, so that's what I was working on. I was finishing up that painting, and hope you can see it. It's going to be at River Gallery for about another month or so. And it's an experiment with how to paint transparent things. You have to see it. And I don't have actually I have a picture of it here, but that's what I'm working on. When it comes back, maybe I'll finish it. I don't know. I'm starting to be like some of the artists I've read about who would go into a gallery with their brushes and palette and finish their paintings. Oh, that one never got okay. So I'm starting to feel that way, like, I could have made that a little better. Oh, well, can't do it every time. Thank you for the question, though. Yeah. But I think I have this thing about wanting to be immersed in the space. And there are a couple of ways to do that. One is, I was just talking to Frank Miller, our photographer, today, and he said one way he saw that done was a large black canvas or something with an itsy bitsy little photograph in the middle. And it just made you dive into that small work. For me, I wanted to encompass me. And I think I've told this before, but when I told a professor of mine that's what I wanted to do, he said, well, maybe you should be studying architecture. So I said, architecture. And he sent me over to the architecture people. And they were very nice, but I looked at the drawings on the wall and they were all straight lines, absolutely straight, and a lot of squares and rectangles. And I just thought, oh, I could never do this. This would drive me absolutely, I mean, I could do it, but it would drive me a little crazy. So yeah, I just had to make them big so I could walk into them. I want to say too that all of these paintings can be rolled up. So, and they have been shipped in to many places of the world out there and back. Probably not now with the cost of shipping, but they used to be sent around. And once they are rolled up, it's very easy to move them around. I never thought of it as a career. I come from a family that was not financially, what's the word? That was more, middle class, etc. And but I thought of it as a very rich family because we had music, we had good food, we had good times together, and coming from Sicily, it was a very close-knit, although large, family. And I still feel that, and I still am, proud of that background. First of all, the IRS says that you are a hobbyist. You are a hobbyist. So if you buy a paintbrush, you can't take that off your income tax at all. It's just, what you sell, and then you pay them. If you sell something for $5,000, you have to pay them more taxes, and that's it. So I think we're going to get a new tax accountant this year. Because number one. And how many human beings, people, are making a living uh, with an artistic career? Very few. I think that the number is nowhere near 10,000, and many of those are illustrationists and different kinds of artists. Um, there was actually a 4-part, pretty wonderful series on NPR about the 1950s, and how art became a commodity. And it's a wonderful series to listen to. And I think, you can go back, and they've run it actually a couple of times on NPR, because I think people wanted to know these things. But, sometimes it's just a game of millionaires against billionaires, and who gets it, and what the auction houses are doing and selling, and and then you think of people who were wonderful artists in their lifetime, and it isn't until they die that all of a sudden their art is worth $1 million. I mean, it's crazy. It's just insane, I think. And I know, like Alice Neal just had a big show. Well, she's dead. Although Faith Ringgold had a big show, and she's not quite dead yet. So it's just a game that some people with, I don't know, with money play. Unfortunately, there are a lot of really good curators who try to put the work of more unknown artists into group shows and things like that. And some people, it works, to change maybe, what was it? The circle of the career, is that what you said, Matt? Or the zigzag or whatever. But I think mostly those people get the idea that, oh, I don't think I want to do that. We have a friend who was teaching in Michigan, but every year he would go to New York, and he would bring his slides. Actually, I think he would sometimes bring some of the pieces that he was making. And finally, the gallery, and I can't remember which one it was, fortunately, said, I would handle your work if you lived within maybe half an hour of the gallery, so that I could bring buyers to your studio, so you could look, and so that. And he said he didn't want to live there. He loved living in Michigan. So that's the other thing. We all know these things. Do we want to do that or not? Some of us do, obviously, but not me. How about you, Anne? I mean, it's nice to have some recognition in your own time. And fortunately, I've been able to do illustrations for some books that kind of gave me feedback that way. And from friends like you. I have today so many what I call good friends who are good artists who were my students. And I just am thrilled by that. They come visit us, they keep in touch with us in all different ways. They show us what they're doing. I mean, it's a joy. It's a joy to have those connections out there. And they're all so different, but they're still making art. And it just thrills me to know that and to see that. It really does. For young artists, yeah, maybe being a plumber, they make a lot of money, don't they? Although I hear that if you're an electrician, it might be easier. You don't have to, go out in the rain as much. So you know, it's just like with musicians as well. You know, it's just, you know, it's hard for all the arts, frankly. And especially if you're in an area where the arts are not like the number one thing, which is a lot of areas in this country, frankly. And that's the way it is. Fortunately, you know, we do have things like the Salem Art Association, the big art fair. And in Salem, there are some other small little fairs around too. So that helps. But I'm not going to drag these huge pieces, you know, into some of those venues, you know. It's not, you just have to think of another way to make money, or how to make your work saleable. I mean, I can't even imagine that that's possible. Maybe it is.
Thanks to everyone who came, but especially Jo, thanks for your art and your time.
Thank you for the invite.